Hello, everyone. It is Dr. Scarlett Smash here. Thank you so much for joining us. We are doing our Facebook special of the Marine Conservation Happy Hour. I am your host, Dr. Scarlett Smash. There is Dr. Craken. Dr. Kraken's being eaten up by an alien. And it's perfect. You and aliens. I feel like you would love to be in the movie Aliens all over again. Like if they filmed it again, you would be jumping up trying to be
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But that is going to be our topic today. We're going to talk about how can we learn from aliens everything to know about conservation through aliens, right?
Oh, all the important stories and lessons that Alien and Aliens tells us about conservation.
Oh, I'm ready, Dr. Craken. This is a really interesting subject. You mentioned, I want to talk about aliens. I was like, oh, okay. Okay, let's do it. Why not?
Well, I'm wearing my Wayland's Yutani shirts here, which says "Building Better World." So this is what conservationists want to do. We want to build a better world. So what better than to talk about Alien and Aliens and conservation?
Totally. Okay, so tell me what is an alien going to teach me?
Well, you have to think about the movies. So let's start with Alien. Now, if you remember Alien, Ripley goes up and attacks the alien, blah, blah, blah. She's about to jump off the spaceship, but she stops and goes back for Jones, the big ginger cat. So sometimes a single charismatic animal like Jones or Cecil the lion or, Keiko the killer whale or something like that can be a really big motivator for conservation because we've talked about this before, that people have real problems connecting with things that are nebulous, like species or populations. But if you can have a single charismatic animal, great motivator for action. Also, okay, now let's go to aliens. So beginning of Aliens, what happens? You have all these colonial Marines who are like, yeah, we know how to fix everything, blah, blah, blah. We're going to go and solve all these problems. And there's Ripley there going, yeah, I've actually dealt with aliens before, but they just ignore her experience. So they literally do like drop ship science. So instead of parachute science, let's call it drop ship science, where they drop down into this area and go, right, everything's fixed now. And little do they know that hidden over there's a whole bunch of aliens. And there's this little girl from the local community who listens to her. Ripley listens to her. And she goes, oh, yeah, the aliens come at night. Mostly they come at night. So they look at Newt, the little girl, her experience, and Ripley learns from her, rather than drop shipping into an area and go, we know the best and we're going to fix it. And then, of course, it all goes wrong. So too many conservation organizations do not go in and talk to the local community first. They think, yes, we're the Western scientists and we can fix everything. And little do they know. Okay, still on aliens. Do you remember, was it Hudson? I think, Hudson, where he goes, game over, man, game over. And he's always going like, oh no. First of all, he starts going off, yeah, we can beat everything. And then very quickly he's like, oh, we're all gonna die, we might as well just give up.
Okay.
So whereas Hicks, the corporal, turns around and just goes, shut up, dude, shut up, and then just gets on with it. So conservation, don't listen to the naysayers and curmudgeons.
Oh, I love that. I love that message. I'm always about going against all of the naysayers. Absolutely.
Particularly if you've just started, you just started a project. And in conservation, sometimes things can take years and years, 10 years or more to get a marine protected area established.
Well, do you remember, Dr. Craken, how we actually met? It was because I went to one professor and I said, hey, I have this really great idea to do a survey here as an undergrad. And that professor said, that's so dumb. and you have no experience, and that's just not it's not worthwhile. It's useless. So it was like heartbroken, and I walked away, and I kept thinking, you know what? I'm gonna go to that new professor that I've had in marine science, and I'm just gonna like throw the idea at him and see what he says. And you were like, great idea. And then what did we do? That was the climate change paper that I did as an undergrad. Mm-hmm. And
you became the first undergraduate at the university to have ever published a peer-reviewed scientific paper in a scientific journal.
And they were able to use that information and do an entire sustainability degree.
Oh, yeah.
And this one professor literally told me that was a stupid idea. So no, we don't listen to naysayers. Yeah, I love it. So go ahead.
When people say game over, man, game over. No, just like, let's get our flamethrower and go and save the world.
Flamethrower, love it. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, sometimes scientists. Now, if you remember Aliens.
Okay.
Sorry, if you remember Alien, so there's an android scientist there who causes a lot of problems. And sometimes scientists' self-interests can derail a project. So that scientist had their own particular agenda. Mm-hmm. They wanted to take back the alien for the corporation, and they wanted to make lots and lots of money on it, and nearly killed everyone. That scientists can be super helpful. For example, Aliens, where Bishop saves the day, but you can also have scientists who can cause more problems.
Yes.
They want, for example, to get the funding, or they want to get their name on the paper, or what it is you're doing counteracts something that they've said before.
They're just looking for something to add to their resume.
Yes. So scientists can be a super help and save the day, like Bishop, or they can be like Ash and actually can sometimes derail a project. So you have to sort of work out where your android scientists lie, whether they're going to be helpful, supportive, or whether they're just going to have an ego and let their own agenda rule things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Constantly. Everyone's just kind of looking to try to climb the ladder and doesn't care what they're doing to get there.
And then you have scientists who are just like super, super helpful. And in case of Bishop, literally gets torn in two.
Oh no!
Trying to save everyone.
Of course.
Everyone's kind of like suspicious, what does this android really know? But they turn out to be, sort of calm, sensible, have all the solutions to save the day at the end. So you have to know whether you're dealing with an Ash or a Bishop. Okay. Now, we mentioned corporations. So corporations throughout Aliens, they tend to fund everything. But let's face it, in conservation, corporations are the root of a lot of evil. There is a statistic that 2/3 of climate change gases have been produced by about 60 companies.
Okay, what are those companies?
I
really want to know now.
Some of them are very obvious. I mean, there's several big coal companies. There's a lot of oil and gas companies. There's some chemical companies that produced climate change gases like CFCs. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the names. Yeah,
I was thinking Coca-Cola.
Well, the ones who funded lots of people to go against climate change.
Bing, 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 bing. Maybe there's
court cases going on at the moment. Let's just say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Remember, so in the movies, particularly in Aliens, the corporation was going, it's all under control, and let's just hold on here. Let's not be too hasty. Let's, this is $1 million company. This is a big piece of infrastructure. We shouldn't just blow it up because it's full of aliens, because it might cost jobs.
Yes.
Again, corporations in terms of fisheries, there are a handful of corporations that do most of the world's fishing. So really
makes so much sense.
Instead of like, it's our personal responsibility to deal with climate change, all the recycling in the world that you do really is going to have minimal impact compared to one corporation getting out of fossil fuels. So corporations are the problem, but very often give you loads and loads of flim flam to make it think that it's not. And at the end of the day, it's like, don't blow up that base full of aliens, because it will cost money and cost jobs, and it has a substantial dollar value. And so yes, corporations, root of all evil. Just nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Now, sometimes just throwing huge amounts of resources at a problem doesn't solve that problem. I mean, we can look at what happened with Hurricane Katrina. For example, lots of money thrown at Hurricane Katrina, lots of money thrown at various conservation issues, elephants, huge amounts of money thrown at pandas, and yet they're still going extinct. So sometimes just throwing money at a project just leads to more problems, because you tend to get people coming in and go, oh, money, boom, here.
Here's an idea, and that it's not realistic, and it's going to be almost like a parachute, like an idea where they just go in, get something to brag about, and then spend all that money and then not have anything happen the rest of the years after.
Yeah, I mean, a good example is this ocean cleanup project where they spent $150 million or something like that, and they've managed to collect as much plastic as one small community beach clean with $150 million. So, throwing huge amounts of money does not necessarily lead to good conservation. And very often you could just avoid the problem by listening to the person with experience. Yeah, just listen to Ripley first before you throw, you go into this alien infested planet, and do a thorough review first. So, again, in Aliens, Ripley's "I told you so" face when they realize it's a huge disaster.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. People with guns shooting things. So very often, particularly in the US, a lot of stuff in Africa, money for conservation comes through trophy hunting or from permits for huntings. So sometimes hunters can help your cause, but very often hunting can just make things a lot more complicated and difficult and cause issues with the local community. So they found in many locations where there's been trophy hunting that can actually cause alienation of the local community, because all that money goes to like rich white people from abroad. Very little money comes to the local community, and their benefits tend to be, oh, here's some leftover meat that we don't want to, we've killed the elephant, here's some meat, have some meat. That's really kind of like patronizing. Whereas ecotourism projects in places where they bring in the local community, there the community actually get proper jobs, they get training, it's more worthwhile, has much bigger long-term effects.
Here, take this and don't look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
Situation.
It has lots of indirect benefits as well. Like if you have an eco resort, then people who are growing crops to feed the eco resort, people who are the tour guides, they provide money to the local schools for kids. So there's a lot of things there. A dysfunctional team is more likely to fail.
What is this? Okay, this is grand. Go ahead. Continue with dysfunctional team.
Now, so good example, aliens. You have a dysfunctional team. People don't listen to each other. There is weak leadership, or the leader doesn't listen to good advice. In Alien, Dallas, the leader, pretty good leader, but he doesn't listen to advice from Ripley.
Okay.
In Aliens, you have a very poor, weak leader who can't make decisions. As a result, things just come completely disastrous, and it ends up being Ripley basically having to save the day each time. So in the end of Aliens, you end up having a good, effective, functional team. But
Okay.
a dysfunctional team at the beginning led to problems. They also had an interdisciplinary team.
Oh,
So they
love
had,
interdisciplinary. Yep.
absolutely. So you had like Ripley, you had Bishop as
Gotta
a
have it
science
all. That's
officer,
the
you
most
had,
successful team.
yeah. So you had a variety of different people with different skills and
Diversity.
diversity. You know, who was one of the big heroes in Aliens? Vasquez. You know, um, that also leads me to female role models and leaders very often get stuff done in conservation.
Yeah. Let's just be real. Women get stuff done.
Yeah, you know, before you know, the Marvel superheroes, Wonder Woman, Black Widow, blah blah blah. You know, end of 1970s, 1980, you had Ripley, you know, kick-ass female role model, got stuff done. Of course, everyone ignored her at the beginning, and she's the one who ended up saving their bacon. So if you look at the heroes of conservation, we have people like Diane Fossey, Bute Gardikas, we have Jane Goodall, we have Sylvia Earle, and so on. So very often it's the female good, strong leaders who end up saving the day. And a lot of the sort of alpha males just poo-poo them and ignore them.
Oh, I'm kind of familiar with this role. I think that you've brought me onto a few projects that something you were involved in, only a little bit, but you were like, oh my Lord, they're having problems. They're just going down the crapper. You know, Scarlett, come on in, please fix this, or it's not gonna get done.
Absolutely. So I mean, that's very often a big issue, but then again, you know, don't try to do everything by yourself. So in Alien, Ripley does it by herself, almost gets herself killed. Whereas in Alien, she's got help from Newt, she's got help from Bishop, she's got help from Hicks. You know, she has a team supporting her. So it's a team enterprise.
I don't understand people that can't work in a team. When I come across people and they're like, I rather work by myself, and I'm like, really? Like, I feel better and I feel like I'm gaining more knowledge, and I feel like my performance is even better when I have a team around me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with my sort of day job, a lot of the stuff I do by myself. But being part of a larger team is super important.
Exactly. There you
sometimes you get stuck, and sometimes like, I don't know how to do this.
Exactly.
And they go, oh yeah, you just go to blah blah, go to Brian, and he knows how to do that.
It's always Brian that knows how to do it. I swear it is.
Literally, Brian. Thanks, Brian, for solving my video problems this week. Yeah, exactly. So you may spend a lot of time by yourself, but having a team or a community you can work with, get advice from, get help, bounce ideas off. This is super, super useful.
Great.
And then finally, just when you think everything's going okay, then you get a crisis. And when you think you've defeated that problem, up pops another. So you think, right, we've dealt with all the aliens. Oh no, we have an alien queen who hitchhiked on our dropship. You know,
the alien queen worst.
When absolutely, I hated it when you have an alien queen in your meetings.
Whenever I play the game Nemesis and there's an alien queen, I'm like, that's it, done. I'm dying.
I love Nemesis.
I'm done. I could have done the babies, I could have done the eggs, but I see the alien queen. I'm done.
That's it. Just game over, man.
Game over.
Get in the escape pod. Or, you know, Ripley gets into the escape pod. You know, she takes her kit off. She's put the cat in the cooler, you know, for hypersleep. And then just about to settle down, you know, get some Zeds, and there's an alien just there. So just when you're about to relax, suddenly there's a big crisis. And that happens in conservation.
I feel like that's with life in general. It always happens.
just when you think, oh yeah, everything's going okay, something comes along and tips up the apple cart. So you have to be prepared and have to be prepared. Okay, let's deal with this crisis and then move on.
I love this. I love this analogy. I didn't even realize the correlation. I was like, where's he going at with this? But I think this is incredible. This is almost an awesome con presentation, right?
And you notice that I have completely ignored Prometheus and Alien Covenant because everyone should, because they are just awful movies. And
just ignore them.
They really needed, oh my goodness, they really needed scientists to give advice in that movie. Prometheus, nothing of that makes sense to anyone who knows anything about genetics. No, if you know anything about genetics or biology above like a 14-year-old level of biology, it makes no sense at all. And those scientists in that movie are like the worst scientists ever. It's like, I'm a zoologist. I'm going to poke this snake thing with big pointy teeth. That's like
stupid,
sort of Steve Irwin type of.
I love Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin, no, don't do that to me.
Well, you know, at least Steve Irwin had some sense. He didn't go up and poke like every single animal.
No,
don't hug the wildlife. Don't hug the wildlife. Wildlife is wildlife, so keep a safe distance. So I think that's probably the only thing we can really learn from Prometheus. That one, you need a scientific advisor, otherwise it ends up being awful. And two, don't hug the wildlife. Give wildlife a sensible distance.
No touchy. We always say that all the time. No touchy, you guys. No touchy. Well, Dr. Craken, thank you so much for just telling us the correlation between Aliens, the movie, and conservation. I'm not going to be able to watch that movie again and not see your words.
Oh, so, absolutely. And we mentioned the game Nemesis. This is one of our super favorites. A little bit of a plug there. Nemesis, and also the Alien role-playing game, which is like super fun as well. So we're big fans of that. So
well, thank you, everyone. Please subscribe. We will only have specials for YouTube here for you twice a week, Wednesday and Friday. We have our podcast that is published on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then we have special live events on Facebook, and that is on random Saturdays, but we definitely do let you know in advance, like a week or a few before, what their topic is and when we'll go live. So please follow us on our Facebook page, Marine Conservation Happy Hour. Dr. Craken, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it. And everyone else, happy conservation.